So I've been lucky to have friends who I can count on for their opinions, going vast ways in the NFL. And one of the guys that I love to talk to is a guy who's an NFC West scout. I've been able to know him for several years because of him and my connection to the Detroit area, because he is a scout in the NFC West, and I do cover the Detroit Lions for GC Sports, Detroit Lions News podcast. So anytime he has a question about the Detroit Lion, he wants to get my opinion because we both went to the same circles, and we both talk the same way. And I was interested what he had to say about TeSlaa after he asked me about Isaac TeSlaa, because he read about Isaac TeSlaa being great in training camp, whether it was the Detroit Lions video, whether Dan Campbell spoke, whether the Athletic, Detroit News, Detroit Free Press, they all were saying glowing things about Mr. Isaac TeSlaa. And I was interested to hear his opinion, but he always asks me my opinion because he wants to hear my opinion first. So when I gave my opinion, I said, he could be good. He could be maybe good. He's a third round pick. We'll see where he goes. Does he really come into this offense and contribute right away? It's going to be tough. Tim Patrick, James Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. There's a lot of roadblocks in his way. And then he said this. He said, he's a classic diamond in the rough. You watch Isaac TeSlaa on tape, and it's not hard to see shades of Puka Nacua. Big frame, smooth mover, great body control, and just like Nacua, the production doesn't tell the whole story. At Arkansas, the numbers weren't eye-popping, but the context matters. He wasn't featured, he wasn't targeted nearly enough, but when you isolate his reps, he's open a lot, and not just against backups. We're talking SEC corners. And he brought up Puka Nacua for one grandiose reason. He said, when Puka Nacua was at BYU, he wasn't the mainly targeted wide receiver. They had another guy who they targeted a lot, and they like to target their tight ends at BYU. And even so, BYU still threw to Puka Nacua 48 times for 625 yards, 5 touchdowns, 8.4 yards per catch. And you're saying, why am I bringing that up? Why am I bringing up Puka Nacua's stats at BYU compared to Isaac TeSlaa at Arkansas? Here's why. 20 less receptions with 28, 545 yards, 3 touchdowns, 19.5 yards per catch. He was 2 touchdowns away from Puka Nacua. He had more yards per catch. He nearly had the same amount of yards if you look at 625 to 545, less than 100 away, and he had 40 less receptions. And then, a lot of people, they're going to get into the whole, diamond in the rough and, his size. And when you look at the way Arkansas played, Taylon Green is their quarterback at Arkansas. And when you watch Taylon Green play, he doesn't see the whole field great. And even my scouting friend who watched a lot of Arkansas tape over the last couple weeks, because he is scouting Taylon Green, because he said Taylon Green could be a potential first-round pick if he shows out this year, it will be interesting to see what shows up on tape. And he goes, when I watched, some of the games, he goes, he wasn't targeted any time. He was targeted on big plays. Taylon Green, like the one wide receiver, Armstrong. And when you look at the statistics, they bear it out. Armstrong was targeted the most in the SEC of any wide receiver. And he had the crazy part is Taylon Green had the most time to throw in the SEC. Matter of fact, it was close to the top in the NCAA. But he still got sacked one of the most times in the SEC. So Taylon Green's got a lot of growing up to do. But when you look at his TeSlaa statistics and the way that he has been, showing up in practice, here's what Dan Campbell had to say about Isaac TeSlaa.
His pop more early out on the field, but I thought TeSlaa had a really good day yesterday. I can see the uptick now with him. So he's got to stack another good day, but that was good to see yesterday. And that's the first day of pads, by the way. So
he's clearly been hobbling a little.
So when you see what Dan Campbell says, and then you hear what a lot of other people are saying from, DetroitLions.com, from anywhere, they're all talking about this guy, Isaac TeSlaa. The scout was talking about Isaac TeSlaa. And, it's going to be interesting to see if Isaac TeSlaa can break into being in this offense full time. I talked about it. I made the silly comparison of Puka Nacua earlier on podcasts, and probably a podcast ago with James, or 2 podcasts ago. I said, look, I kind of see similarities. And then I talked to this guy, and he gives me the same similarity. It's actually kind of funny how it works out. But when you watch this guy over a course of however you want to say it, this kid really does a great job at being the guy he is. And he's a very good player, does a lot of things the right way, and he's going to be a good player to look at. When you look at some of his highlights from DetroitLions.com, you can see that he has the makings to be a great player. Look at the just great contested catch. You look at the way he's been able to get away from SEC corners. Again, Taylor Green wasn't the most polished player, but he made throws to him, and when he did, Isaac TeSlaa made them happen. And Isaac TeSlaa is a very good player when you talk about his way, the way he plays, and will he fit with Detroit? It's gonna be interesting because he's coming from a quarterback who couldn't make a read, couldn't find him on the field, to a guy who can find him on the field. And I thought this was very, very interesting of what Mr. Tim Twentyman said of DetroitLions.com. He said, the guy whose TeSlaa's been standing out, battling through some knee pain, but hasn't missed any reps because of it. And there's something to be said about his toughness. He's really popped off the last 2 days in padded practices, and his size and speed and combo could make an early impact. When you hear that, you hear what Isaac TeSlaa's been able to do at practice. You see what he's been able to do at practice. He's a good player. I think what the scout was saying was he has a potential to be really good. Think of Puka Nacua type. Could he really flash that early like Puka Nacua? I hope so, because that'd make this offense really dominant. It'd make it really dominant. We think about J-Mo, and we think about St. Brown and Laporta and Gibbs and Montgomery, and then you think about Tim Patrick, and then if this kid Isaac TeSlaa pops, you got a whole host of problems for defenses, because not only do they have to worry about St. Brown or J-Mo or Gibbs or Montgomery or Laporta, now they got to worry about this kid named Isaac TeSlaa. I hope he's right. I hope he's right. I hope he's right about Isaac TeSlaa, because if Isaac TeSlaa is anywhere close to what this scout said, we could be in for a really, really fun season. And, a lot of people were upset with the way that Brad Holmes picked this kid. They said, oh my God, why did he pick him in the 3rd round? Why did he pick a wide receiver? As the scout told me, you cannot wait to draft a guy until he's drafted. You understand what I'm trying to say? You cannot wait to draft a guy when he's already drafted. It happens all the time in the NFL. Team goes, we really like this guy, but we're going to wait to draft him in the 4th round. Never makes it to him. Never makes it to him. So when you got an opportunity to take a guy that you like, you got to take the guy that you like. Regardless of what a fan thinks, regardless of what a fan site thinks, that's the way it works in the NFL circles. And Brad Holmes just does this because he does this. Look what he did with Kirby Joseph, and look what he did with St. Brown, and look what he did with Derek Barnes. And this guy is drafted at a better clip than most GMs in the NFL. Yes, the Broderick Mark pick sucks. Hendon Hooker pick, as of now, sucks. But you gotta trust what he's been able to do. And when he takes a pick on a player that he thinks like potentially could be a diamond in the rough, that's how you determine a good general manager from a bad general manager. A bad general manager will not take that chance, but the best general managers do take that chance. And that is the truth. We'll see you in the next video to talk more Detroit Lions football here on JC Sports. Thank you for following. Catch every episode of the Detroit Lions News podcast on JC Sports, or follow wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.